Hi, and welcome to Thor's Day Comics. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And this Saturday, May 6th, is Free Comic Book Day, and there's going to be a Free Comic Book Day edition of I Am Stan. It's a comic book length excerpt of the larger I Am Stan book, which will be out in September, and there's a pre-order link in the show notes below. But you don't have to wait till September to get a nice, juicy slice of the story in this Free Comic Book Day edition. Ask your local comics retailer to set aside a copy for you. And I'll be appearing at Phantom of the Attic Comics, Oakland in Pittsburgh on Free Comic Book Day, Saturday, May 6th from 1:30 to 4. I hope to see you there. Journey into Mystery with the Mighty Thor, number 113, mightier than ever. At last, the Thunder God reveals his true identity to Jane, but wait till you see what happens when he does. So, the soap opera is moving forward. Jane and Dr. Don Blake are a couple now. They're dating, and now he's going to tell her everything. He's going to, sort of take off his glasses and say, Lois, I'm Superman, and it's all going to happen here. Pretty great cover. Again, we're in that, Chick Stone era, really a fun era of Thor, where we're going from sort of the early days into the peak of the Marvel era. And Chick Stone is with us there, and then Vince Colletta is inking the Tales of Asgard backups, and then Colletta takes over the main series and the Tales of Asgard, and then Thor enters like a whole new period of greatness. This is some good stuff. Like, there's going to be a nice run from here onward. And so, boom, right off the bat, the Tales of Asgard stuff is really helping augment the main series. The sort of, Jack Kirby version of Norse mythology is starting to bubble up into the main book in really fun ways. And so we start off A World Gone Mad, starring the mighty Thor. A Tale Told with Gusto by Stan Lee. A Drama Drawn with Grandeur by Jack Kirby. An Idyll Inked with Gallantry by Chick Stone. A Legend Lettered with Glee by Artie Simic. When imperious Odin commands, Thor must obey. Thus we find him aboard a giant Asgard sky ship, lending his own awesome might to the battle against the demon men of Jotunheim. This doesn't have too much to do with the main part of our story, but you've got to admit it makes a spectacular beginning. And yeah, it's gorgeous. It's, Jack Kirby's Norse mythology, this sort of super pumped up version. And, we're kind of in the era of like the James Bond movies. And so the idea of having like a little mini adventure at the start and then starting like the main thing and sort of an in medias res story. And the way comics is, superhero comics, you might assume that like, hey, I missed the previous issue, and maybe if I get, the issue before this, I'll see some big epic adventure that this is. And, you'll be disappointed because this is happening, in between the two issues, in the gutters. And man, this like beautiful attacking the bad guys, great depth here. We promised old Jack Kirby that we'd let him get a few of these eye-opening battle scenes out of his system. So here they are. Go ahead, enjoy them. There's no extra charge. So again, we're getting more of that kind of genial, jovial, editorial voice of the Marvel comics that starts to creep in more and more and kind of, adds another layer of interest and enjoyment to these stories. Few sights on Asgard or Earth can be as impressive as this breathtaking close-up of omnipotent Odin and his thunder god son fighting side by side against a common foe. And now on to the next page where our tale really begins. So we warm you up with this big, epic, mythic battle. And this kind of stuff is going to become like more and more part of the main story. It's going to sort of spill out of Tales of Asgard and just fill up this main story. And so now they're wrapping up the battle. Thor's like, I got to go back home to see Jane Foster. Again, you defy the wishes of Odin, but I see behind your arrogant words, it is the girl called Jane whom you do not wish to leave. I cannot deny that. She has won my heart, noble father. So unless you give me a direct order to remain here. And so Thor goes back to Earth via the Rainbow Bridge. Interesting angle on the bridge, how it sort of is warping there, kind of going upward at a bit of an angle. I haven't seen this take on it before, and I don't think you will again. This is sort of like a little quirk. I think if it were sort of angled this way, Asgard itself would also be angled when Kirby solidifies his iconography for this. And so Thor, lands on the roof, hits his hammer, turns back into Don Blake. This time we're getting, an angle from behind. Usually we see this kind of setup, straightforward, see his face, but he's bearing a burden. He's not happy. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. So sort of reversing the shot, seeing him from above in this almost kind of like weak position. There's good story reason to show him from a different angle. And never has a man carried such an awesome secret locked within his breast. And now he's back. I have something to tell you. Something that can wait no longer. You must prepare yourself for a shock, my dear. Do not interrupt until I have finished. What is it, Don? I've never seen you look that way before. So grim, so deadly serious. It almost frightens me. You must not be frightened, my darling, no matter what I say. Just listen and try to understand. Look, we got this, again, more of this kind of like pop art, this intense close-up. She can't even believe what she's hearing. Has to cover her mouth to keep from, gasping aloud. Though you know me as Dr. Don Blake, I have another identity as well, one which no other earthly mortal would ever suspect. But now, my beloved, I must tell you. I am Thor, son of Odin, god of thunder. So, man, big leap forward. Big, the soap opera has taken a giant step forward. And of course, now's the perfect time to cut away. Let it sort of simmer in our brains. Let that sort of percolate. I love the coloring here. I love that, the one side of his face is colored. The other side is just sort of left white. Really nicely done. And so somebody has found, in the ocean floor or like in the mud of a river, has found what they think is a statue. Some ancient sculpture, but it is in fact the gray gargoyle. And he touches these guys, turns them into stone, and jets. Just, beautiful visual storytelling here. It's practically animation, the way it flows. And then we get a little recap of how he became who he is. And now we're back at Asgard. And I like this bit of sort of, comedy. And now, before returning to Don Blake, let us again visit Asgard, where Odin is in a violent mood, such as only he can attain. Go back, Loki. It is worth your life to face Odin while his fury rages. And so Odin's like throwing food, throws a big turkey. You call thyself a chef, out of my sight, knave. Thy food is but fit for swine. So Odin is in a mood. Really nice comedy there. So there is the reason for Odin's rage. I thought as much. My own son, my favored one, my rightful heir, giving up his birthright for a mere mortal female, and I am powerless to stop him, for not even Odin may interfere in matters involving the heart of another. It is unthinkable, unforgivable. Would that the life had left my limbs ere I had witnessed so pernicious a scene. Begone, Loki, I have no patience for you this black day. Forgive me, sire. I merely wish to offer my regrets and to tell you that I stand with Odin in this moment of shameful betrayal. I note and commend your loyalty, my second son. Though Thor has ever been my favored one, mayhap my judgment was false. I shall not forget your pledge, O godling who walks alone. As for the one who has forsaken me, I wash my hands of him. From this moment hence, his power is gone. If he would remain a mortal, then so be it. There is no thunder god. Thus, the ultimate victor is Loki, as I always knew it would be. And now we return to Dr. Blake. So I think we kind of have a sense of the twist this story is going to take, which I think is a fun and interesting twist. You don't believe me. I can see it in your eyes, but you must. Doctor, you've been working so hard. Perhaps if you went home to bed. Wait. Watch me, I'll prove that I'm the god of thunder. See? All I need do is stamp my cane upon the floor and what? What's wrong? Oh, Don, my darling, you don't have to try to glamorize yourself just for me. I love you just as you are. I don't care who Thor really is. Only Odin has the power to nullify the enchantment of my cane. It must be his doing. Please, Don, you must rid yourself of that obsession. And look, we got the bad guy sort of creeping in. Some suspense there. The Great Gargoyle, he's come back. So he tells her his secret. He's about to show her to prove it because it's a bold claim. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proofs. Run, Jane, race to safety, my darling. I'll try to hold him off. And so now, before he can get into an even more like in-depth explanation or try to get to the bottom of things, the action's on. The bad guys crashed in on him. You are in no danger unless you refuse to tell me where I can find Thor. And so he throws a book at him. The book turns to stone. And then now the book becomes a deadly projectile that he throws at Don Blake. And I think this might be the third time, not counting the Hulk issue. This is like the third time in a row where he's unable to turn into Thor. And now he's got to use his wits as Don Blake to evade a dangerous pursuer. And we've seen this before. He runs into the elevator. The Gray Gargoyle is relentless. This new appearance, the second appearance of the Gray Gargoyle is like, even more intense. And there's more balls in the air. There's more going on plot-wise. Again, this is what's happening with Stan and Jack. They're telling and retelling stories, adding little twists, adding little original bits, but building on the sort of stories as they retell them, and it's, they did a Gray Gargoyle story. Now they're doing another Gray Gargoyle story, but they're adding some new wrinkles, and it's getting refined, to the point of perfection. And now they're running, and then Gray Gargoyle's turning everything into stone. While back in Asgard, an unusual meeting of Thor's faithful friends is taking place. We all know that without his power, the Thunder God will be fair prey for any foe who attacks him. It is intolerable. We must go to the aid of our fellow immortal. Odin has not yet forbade our interference. Let us act while we may. One of us shall race to Earth. So, Thor's little gang of buddies, which, we saw a couple issues ago, and, they know Thor's getting a raw deal, but they're trying to help. So Balder the Brave is chosen to go to Earth, as he did a couple issues ago. With triumph almost in my grasp, I shall permit none to aid my archenemy, the accursed Thor. Thus does sinister Loki, master of a multitude of evil spells, manage to forestall the coming of Balder. What ominous quirk of fate is this? The sleeping sickness has stricken my mount. I must remain at his side until the dread seizure has passed. Loki conked out his horse, and now somebody else is going to try. Where are you going, warriors? It is of no concern to you, Loki. You are wrong. I have battle orders for you. You are hereby dispatched to patrol the eastern sector of our realm until further notice. You have not the authority, crafty one. No, but Odin does, and you must never forget, with Thor in disfavor, it is Loki who now speaks for our monarch. So you will obey my every command, and you will give up your useless plan to assist the one who is Thunder God no more. So be it, Loki. So yeah, Loki was able to stall them long enough to sort of come in and send them far away where they can't help Thor. But while Loki smirks with gleeful self-satisfaction, another immortal rider secretly crosses the legendary Rainbow Bridge on a dramatic mission to the planet Earth. Now, some of these comics I haven't read in a long time, and so I completely, rereading this, I completely forgot who this is going to Earth. And I was kind of like, is it Balder? Is it Heimdall? Maybe it's Sif. Maybe there's like an early appearance of Sif and she's in disguise. This issue is great. This is like, the Marvel formula, coming to full fruition, as we see it. Like this is Stan and Jack like really figuring out what they're doing. And this kind of story is the thing that like, generations of fans were sort of changed and are sort of referring back to this kind of stuff. And we're seeing it being minted here. We've seen the pieces slowly falling into place from issue 1 onwards. And now it's like, sort of compressing and coalescing and just, it's a really fun thing to behold, to really watch, two guys, creating some, and Chickstone too, creating something that's really going to change the world. Now we're back to the Gray Gargoyle menacing everybody, turning people into stone. Again, a very threatening villain, very visually imposing, visually interesting. Another one of Kirby's rock people, like the Thing. I love this kind of stuff. We had this with like the Balder issue where you're just, you're seeing little bits and pieces of just seeing the hands. It's like keeping the mystery going, and he shoots an arrow an exploding arrow that blinds him, and now he's chasing them, and they're in a cool, hip new car, a convertible, and Jack's probably getting out an issue of like Popular Mechanics or something, having fun with the reference. We get a great angle here, a billboard saying join the MMMS, the Merry Marvel Marching Society, which there's going to be an ad for at the end of this. So it's kind of fun. Like, this is 1964. And so we're getting 1964, a pretty great year for comics, pretty great year for Marvel Comics. Think about it you're a kid at this time. You got the Marvel stuff, really coming into its own, firing on all cylinders. You got the Beatles. I mean, it's like no wonder like boomers have this like feeling of superiority about their generation and the things they grew up with. Like there's a lot to crow about here. And so now look how great we got this cherry red brand new car zipping by, and then the Gargoyle touches it and turns it into junk, turns it into stone, turns it into like a Fred Flintstone mobile. They get out and they're doing their best. Don Blake is doing his best, but he's at the mercy of the Gray Gargoyle. And then this unknown hand goes on to Don Blake and infuses him with the power of the Thunder God, the power that Odin had taken away. And now he's Thor once more, and so much fun. Popeye got his spinach. He's spinning this hammer, throws it, comes back. He's, Gray Gargoyle's in trouble. And we get, some fun back and forth. He's too slow for Thor. Thor keeps evading him. And then Thor, you can't escape me now. The God of Thunder seeks no simple escape. Instead, I shall tap the main power source of this traffic light with my Uru hammer, sending a bolt of pure electrical power reinforced by the Uru energy of my mallet into your own vulnerable body. And so, he taps into the electricity of the city and pumps it back at the Gray Gargoyle. The first time I ever saw this was in Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller does it. And then the second time I saw it was in The Death Wish of Terrible Turpin, New Gods number 8, which was reviewed on a previous episode of New Gods Sunday School. And then the third time I saw it was this issue. I basically read these stories in reverse order. I started with Dark Knight Returns and then New Gods and then Thor. But here it is, a theme Kirby was working on for a while, and that a young Frank Miller definitely took note. And again, like a couple issues ago, Thor is the god of thunder, and that also makes him the god of electricity and makes him the god of electronics. And we're seeing that this is a space age version of Thor. This is Thor 2.0, this Marvel Thor, and loving it. And so he fuses. He kind of like melts the Gray Gargoyle's rockiness, and so he's sort of stuck in this thing. Look at this moody silhouette panel as he steps into the darkness. And now I must find my unknown benefactor. But why do my limbs feel so weak? Why does my head begin to spin? I had forgotten my 30 seconds have elapsed. I can remain Thor no longer. So that guy gave him like a temporary burst of Thor power. A cloud goes up carrying his mysterious benefactor. How went your mission? Where do you ride now? So there's Heimdall. So the mysterious guy wasn't Heimdall. It went well, and now I seek noble Odin. My liege, Honor the Hunter craves audience with thee. Let him enter. I have returned from Earth, my lord. And so it's Honor the Hunter. Honor. I don't remember this Honor the Hunter. We missed a couple installments of Tales of Asgard that I'm trying to track down, and I'll go back and correct that when I can. So maybe he appeared there, but a completely new character, which I'm not against. It is more fun when you have a surprise character and then it turns out to be somebody that you had met before and you still didn't guess. Like, that's fun, but I'm okay with this. I'm okay with introducing a new character via a mystery character. But here's the surprise. So maybe that's not exactly playing fair, but I like this last little revelation. How went your mission, my trusted one? I did as you ordained, my liege. I restored your son's power long enough for him to save himself and vanquish the foe. You may set your mind at ease, sire. Thor still lives. Perhaps I have not the will to be truly omnipotent. I could not fail my firstborn, no matter how vexed my heart. I shall return his power, for he is still the world to me. Only the strong dare to be gentle, my lord, and only the wise can be as forgiving as Odin. So it was Odin Odin himself didn't go down, but it was Odin who was behind all of it. This guy was operating at Odin's command, and he's almost like a junior Odin. He's got a similar beard that's not quite as full yet, and his hair hasn't gone white yet, but he is sort of a stand-in for Odin. And I guess that could have been a possibility too. You could have had the mystery rider turn out to be Odin. But yeah, here we are. So Odin, has a soft spot. He's the one who sent Honer to help his son out. The choice shall now be Thor's. The mortal girl did not believe his claim. I pray he will abandon his effort. So again, we had what seemed like some major progress in the story going, and then one step forward, two steps back. We took that step forward and then took it back enough to sort of keep the soap opera going, but it did. We have moved forward in that Thor is willing to share his secret with Jane, and it didn't quite work out the way he wanted to, but that is progress. Though I am Don Blake once more, my power has been restored to me. I can feel it surging through my enchanted cane. How can I again give up so precious a gift, even in the name of love? Jane, my dearest, wake up. It's all right now. You're safe. The gray gargoyle is defeated. Thor has saved us. Don, thank heavens you sound like yourself again. The madness has left you. Yes, the madness has left me. See, Thor has taken the power of motion from the stone man. He can harm no one now. Yeah, I guess, Jack Kirby and his stone men, it's been part of Thor from the beginning, the stone men of Saturn. And the gray gargoyle is just like, the latest iteration of that theme. But what will happen to him? What if his power returns? The police will handle it, Jane. And if he should again be needed, I imagine that Thor, too, will never fail to appear. I'm glad he never seems to stay very long. I'd much rather spend my time with a foolish but wonderful man named Don Blake. So, a nice little wrap up. And again, it feels like, some progress was made and then taken away. But this is progress. This is a way of sort of getting Jane's psyche ready for this information. Like she can't accept it right away. It has to come in stages. So later on, he'll make another attempt to reveal all to her. And this initial sort of fumbled attempt will have sort of paved the way and primed the pump and laid the groundwork for it. And so all comes back to normal in a world which seemed to have gone mad. Tranquility returns to Asgard, and once again, the power of the Thunder God is loosed where it rightly belongs, where it must ever remain. So yeah, that was a pretty great little, done-in-one Thor story. Just really great. Really, I can't think of anything, I can't think of, 16 pages of comics this good, prior to this. Stan and Jack are really creating some all-time great stuff here. And yeah, it's 1964, so the Human Torch and the Thing meet the Beatles, and they have their Beatle wigs on. The Boyhood of Loki. Tales of Asgard, home of the mighty Norse gods. Another milestone in our great biographies in-depth series, The Boyhood of Loki. This is a lot of fun. A Stan Lee and Jack Kirby fabulous featurette, inked by Vince Colletta, lettered by Artie Simic. So, we get that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby dual credit that we saw in the Hulk issue. And yeah, I grew up with Masters of the Universe, so this kind of stuff, it really speaks to me. This, these like crazy costumes and this sort of looks like a cross between sci-fi and fantasy and fights going on. Like you can see how this stuff informed Masters of the Universe all those years later. And so yeah, there's a fight going on. Thor and Loki are watching. See how very skillful Uller is. He is sure to defeat the more clumsy Volsak. You seem to think you know everything, Thor. I'll wager a golden globule that Volsak will be the victor. And so Thor's cheering on his favorite, and Loki is just seething with resentment. He hates that, and he knows Thor's right, that that Uller is going to win, and it eats him alive. He just hates it, and so he's going to conjure up a magic spell to interfere with this fight. And we're seeing this. This is a Kirby archetype. This boy Loki, this child version of Loki. We'll see this archetype again in Clarion the Witch Boy, where he's got sort of black hair that's kind of like laying flat on his head, and cowlicks that form horns, because he's sort of a devilish character. And boom, I love this, like all yellow, really great stuff. So yeah, Loki weaves a spell that destroys Uller's staff. I do not understand. My quarterstaff simply fell apart. It could only have been the work of a spell, and I see the culprits now. It matters not. Volsak is the winner. And so now Thor and Loki are running. The geometry of this is very interesting. I wonder what it's like in the pencil. Like, I wonder if the sort of oddness, which I find appealing, but I wonder if the oddness is a result of Coletta maybe simplifying things and turning it into like almost like an abstract sculpture, or if, Jack's pencil is more or less that. I'd be interested to see. It's Thor and Loki. You know the rules about interfering with a tournament, Loki. Why do you speak only to my brother? We know that you would not have done so base a deed, young Thor. But I was at the side of Loki. If there is any punishment to be meted out, I must share it with him. So, I mean, Thor's just a good guy through and through. He's sharing the punishment with Loki, even though he had nothing to do with it. You are truly the son of Odin. Your soul is as noble as the name you bear. Because of your gallantry, young prince, there shall be no punishment. The incident is over. How they bow and scrape before him, giving him the due that should be mine. I cannot bear the sight. On behalf of Loki and myself, I crave your forgiveness, noble lords. Granted, young nobleman, you and Loki are free to depart. So they're so impressed by Thor's awesomeness, his valiant heart, and his goodness that just like emanates, that they let the whole thing slide. Mark ye well my words, no good will come of the unscrupulous Loki. Though he be not yet fully grown, the seed of evil has already taken root. And see how like a king the Golden One walks. By Asgard he is destined for greatness. If they would bow to me as they do to Thor, I'd find a way to gain complete control over them. For I was born to be served, to give commands. It was foolish of you to interfere with the tournament, Loki, but what is done is done. It is time for our horsemanship training now. So then they get on their horses, they ride off. Blast him, he defeats me at everything. See how he rides, smiling, a song on his lips, forever unbeaten. There's the bridge ahead, Loki. Faster, try harder. I'm racing away from you. There's like a comic that I read, before this, that came out in the 90s. I read it when I was a kid. It's like one of the Thor comics. I think like Ron Frenz drew it. The death of Loki, and like Loki's dying, and and then there's like Thor's thoughts and Loki's thoughts, and they're both remembering this moment together, and it's sort of redrawn there in their thoughts. And Loki's, Thor's like thinking, Loki's thinking like, oh, my hated, half brother who I, was always in the shadow of, who I always resented. And then Thor's thinking like, oh, my beloved brother who we, shared such wonderful adventures together as children. Like it was kind of cool. Like it was, it sort of, pays off this kind of moment really nicely, that Thor and Loki are having completely different childhoods, even though they're, standing right next to each other. Loki, they're out together riding their horses, and Loki could not be more miserable and resentful. And Thor is like, hey, I'm out having fun with my bro. Loki is thinking, I shall try harder. I shall devote my life to gaining the most power in Asgard. And I know that sooner or later, in order to attain my goal, Thor must be destroyed. And so it begins, the dark, eternal hatred which Loki feels for his half-brother Thor, a hatred which has lived through the ages and which can never be dimmed so long as the Thunder God lives. Another chapter in this widely heralded series will appear next issue, but we won't enjoy it unless you share it with us. And just one note, Loki and Thor, they both represent, aspects that we all have within us. And I feel that Thor here is sort of an aspirational figure. Like that's what we wish we were like. We wish that we, always were brave and always, were kind and generous and always know the right thing to say and that everybody, thinks we're great and stuff. Like this is an aspirational figure. And then Loki, I feel like in these kind of stories, even though we want to identify with Thor, and if you like asked somebody, they'd be like, oh yeah, I identify with Thor here. Loki's such a rat. I feel like Loki is the one that we identify much more with. Like we wish we didn't identify with him, but everybody's had these kind of feelings from time to time of, jealousy, seeing, and seeing somebody else who seems like, everything works for them and feeling like, why is everything so hard for me? And so like we've all been, at some point in our life, we've all been in Loki's shoes and feeling sort of resentment and then kind of, being a little bit, disappointed or angry with yourself for feeling that way. So I think it's interesting. There's, Loki, I think these stories work because there's so much for us to relate to, in the whole thing. Like, and Loki has gone on to become this beloved character because he represents something and he's somebody we can identify with, even if we're not exactly maybe proud of the moments when we have feelings similar to Loki. A bonus added on to a comic that was great to begin with in 16 pages. We get a 5-page story that's amazing. Just this era of Thor, like what a moment for comics. You're definitely getting your money's worth, your 10 cents or whatever it costs. So we got the letters column. And then, the announcement for the Merry Marvel Marching Society. Here's the greatest surprise of all. You're going to receive a frankly fabulous 33 1/3 RPM record with the actual voices of the Bullpen Gang clowning around and welcoming you to the good old MMMS. Talk about collector's items. You'll never want to part with it. So, we're past, like, the dawn of the Marvel age, the early stuff. Now it's like Marvel is a thing. It's definitely a thing. It is making waves, and they know it. Stan knows it. They know, and this is like the full court press right here. And give me just one evening, and I'll teach you to hypnotize easily. So there you have it. It's great issue. Couldn't recommend it more. I feel like this is the best issue so far, which is how this series is going to be. Each issue is going to be better than the last. It's really an amazing thing. It's something we all shoot for as as comics creators or as creative professionals. We want to just keep getting better, and that's what's happening here. I'm Tom Scioli, author of I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And this Saturday, May 6th, is Free Comic Book Day, and there will be a Free Comic Book Day edition of I Am Stan at your local comic shops. In the show notes below, there's a pre-order link where you can pre-order the full book, which will be out in September. I'll be appearing this Saturday, May 6th, Free Comic Book Day, at Phantom of the Attic Comics, Oakland, in Pittsburgh, from 1:30 till 4. I hope to see you there. And if not, I'll see you next Thursday.